Joining us here on the buck stops here is Emraan Hashmi and Yami Gautam. You, Yami Gautam, first of all, thank you very much. I can understand it's been a very, very long day for you. You know, the Film City area and this Noida studio area is a very, very punishing place. But let me ask you, you know, if you're playing Shah Bano, then surely you have seen much, much worse. Why Shah Bano? Why talk about Shah Bano in 2025?
First of all, just to put it out there as a fact, this film called Haq is inspired by that landmark judgment 1985. Which was about Shah Bano versus Ahmed Khan. So I'm Shazia Bano in the film. We cannot call it a biopic. There are it's an amalgamation of fiction and reality, but yes, the essence is what you're referring to. The way I saw the script, I saw the role, was kind of an amalgamation, and for me it encapsulated not just the case, what happened, but the journey of a woman back in the 1980s, where there was no social media, there was no awareness of what is the idea of being aware of your rights or anything, just a woman who was not even educated. And here she is suddenly just left out there for whatever reason, and she has her kids and whatever, you know, struggle she goes through, and I could only imagine a figment of her journey. And then what happens on the other side of it when she decides to set her foot in the court. And I was like, it has to be one of the most amazing and inspiring stories, and that itself is so compelling to not be told on the big screen if you've gotten an opportunity. And being a woman, being today's woman, yes, I'm working, I'm independent, I'm all those things that today's modern girl is. And yet I felt the need to tell the story. Why? Because it's not about me. I think we are essentially a very, very big country, and where in fact, if you talk about the world, it is a global village now, and you can't even not refer to that. And at some point or the other, haven't we all felt this is not fair, or this is not right? For what fault of mine? That's just not right. The most basic of all, forget man or woman, but your right to dignity, your right to have a basic standard of living. And how do you sustain children back in the day? And I thought that, so I just worked in reverse, that what kind of courage would a woman like her muster to take this kind of decision, which what happened after that was a byproduct. I don't think she anticipated that.
Yeah.
So for me, this was I think once in a lifetime opportunity for an actor.
But you know, there have been many stories which have touched on political issues, but this one was very, very, you know, it was very contentious. And like I said, even today, there is a lot of talk. For example, when the triple talaq bill came, people said, why are you always picking on Muslim women? I mean, there are so many things happening in the country. There are plenty of issues that Indian women as a whole face. Why this particular issue? Was there ever that concern in your mind that this would be seen as singling out a community?
No, I think that's the first question that I asked Suparn and Reshu. And what I got from it, from the narration, is, first of all, like she said, let's get our facts right. This is a fictionalized version of this landmark case. Cinema has its own language, so we have to dramatize certain things, whip up those emotions. Yes, there is this tricky thing where, of course, if you are going down the landmark case, there were two sides. One was on the side of personal faith that this man was fighting for. A staunch believer in the tenets of what his perception of his faith was. And on one side, there was this woman who was fighting for her dignity. The overarching theme was seen from a very, very balanced point of view, from the director and the writer's point of view. I think it's not passing any kind of judgment. We're not justifying anything in this film. We're just showing you the case the way it played out. And as a Muslim, I felt that it is safe to say that this is something that Muslims can come and watch. It is something that we are, like I said, again, not passing judgment. We're not putting one community in the dock. Everyone can extrapolate something from this. What I saw from this film when I read it is that it's pro-women. It is pro a woman's dignity. Every community has had stories of this where a woman after a bad divorce is left in the lurch. She's left with the kids. She doesn't get her basic maintenance, and God forbid she's not independent and she's not fending for herself. Shah Bano at that time, her struggle, I think in a sense was an example and kind of a testament and something to learn for women from different communities. So you can take whatever you want from this film. So it's not singling out one community.
You know, since you said this is a dramatization, was there ever an urge to try and slightly modify, I won't say temper or tamper with any one episode or incident? Was there ever an urge to say that let's go a little easy on this because nobody wants to rake up old wounds, rake up old memories, or, you know, touch on old wounds?
I think the last thing that we wanted is to go easy on the subject. I think it is definitely a very hard-hitting film. It is definitely a conversation starter. What is coming out on the 7th of November, it is an explosive theme. But I don't think the makers have at all shied away from, you know, calling a spade a spade. This is how it played out. Eventually, when you see the film, you can take what you want back home after you watch this film. And yes, there will be conversations that will start. Debates will start on this topic again.
And politics, not just conversation and debates.
Yeah, in the film, we've not shown the political angle of things. It's more of an interpersonal story between these two people. But yes, again, personally, I've not done a film of this nature. So I really don't know. I'm speaking from a place of innocence. I don't know what will come out of it. I'm sure she also doesn't know of the way the audience sees this and what they extract from it. Everyone will have their point of view on this.
But don't you think you will be under greater scrutiny because Article 370, they're like, this though is a political statement. Chronology samajhiye.
See, again, wo aapki marzi hai, what do you want to choose out of one's observation, right? For someone, this is okay, another political. Article 370 was a political thriller. Uri was the new age army film based on a very specific operation. We didn't have such kind of film, so I think it was a path-breaking film. Apart from the fact that yes, it was based on true events. For someone, it could be something else. But for us, these are stories of unsung heroes. These are stories which are important. These are stories which deserve to come on the big screen. It's a big nation, it's a big country. Every kind of film exists and must for the sake of creativity and art. And everyone is free to make, as long as it's within the dimension of nowhere the nation being demeaned in any way. I think that is the most important thing. Other than that, everyone has the right to make what they feel is their truth.
But subconsciously, do you think that you're making a political statement with just your choice? I'm not saying it's a conscious
Absolutely
thing.
not. Absolutely not.
But you have a belief and you just think, oh, this, strikes a chord with me.
Absolutely. And I'm very proud of the films that I've done. I'm very proud. They're good films. I can say that looking, eye to eye, that they're good films and I stand by them. And I'm only fortunate that it's actually those two, especially through these films that people got to see. I don't know what's the other word, but the potential, maybe what I always wanted to prove myself as an actor. And these hold really, really important places in my filmography. And Haq is definitely a very important film in that sense. So I take it as I don't take it in any other way but a compliment and a responsibility. Okay, then what next now?
So if I may ask, what is the statement that you are trying to make through all of the choice of films that you've done?
There is no statement I'm trying to make. I'm just an actor who's trying to do my job to the best of my ability, work damn hard, be that really hard-working person in the room, and make sure that I'm not just performing in the film. I like to collaborate with people, with my director, my writers, my co-actors, my DOPs, and everybody. That let's make a great film together. The next 5 films that I'm doing that have nothing. They're not political in nature. They're not. They're absolutely different. So I'm just an actor looking for great scripts, looking for original ideas, looking for different stories. That's it. So there is no statement.
Okay. Emraan Hashmi, this case itself, in the context of what happened at that time, there was a lot of nuance of why things turned out the way they did. Why did the government decide to challenge, why did they decide to bring in a law? The Ram Mandir movement was peaking at that time. In the film, have you been able to translate the nuances and the context of that time? Or does that somewhere get lost in translation?
Well, ultimately, when you're making a 2-hour film, you have to kind of distill things down to certain aspects that will bring that dramatic effect in the story. I think, yes, there might have been many dimensions to this case. It was politicized and, of course, it had a ripple effect I think in the film we have kept it down to this human emotional story between these two individuals. Marriages that go through a wonderful honeymoon phase, and then you have it sometimes go down a rocky road, and it ends up in what generally is always bad, a bad divorce. So I think ultimately what I took back from the film was, it is this film about these two broken individuals. Eventually, yes, there's this bit of personal faith that comes in, of this man fighting for his staunch belief in that, and a woman finally fighting for her basic maintenance and her right to that. What came afterwards, how it was politicized, I'm not going to tell you what we have said in the film, because it will be giving too much away, but we can't eventually show everything. We have to distill it down to making a taut emotional experience in those 2 hours, and that's what it is.
What do you believe? Do you think that it would have been much better if the politics had stayed out of people's, a couple's life? Like you said, it was eventually just a relationship gone sour.
No, it blew up into something that even they weren't expecting.
But it blew up because politics entered it, which they wouldn't have expected.
I mean, I'm sure they didn't wish that on the situation. They were just these two people who were in love. Things went astray. And there was a man who was wedded to his belief. There was a woman who was fighting for what she thought was right. And it just so happened that the issue was so explosive that it divided the nation into these two camps. One was on constitutional rights, one was on the side of personal faith and doctrines of that. So I'm sure these two people didn't envision that. Shah Bano didn't feel that she was going to be this example for many, many generations of women to come of what she was fighting for. She was just fighting for her basic right at that point of time. So again, I can't answer for these people. I'm just an actor playing these characters on screen, and slightly fictionalized to effect.
Did you ever get advised against taking on a role like this? I mean, if it can create so much trouble 50 years ago, imagine the kind of, with so much more reach of social media, the impact of popular culture, the politics becoming much harsher now. Did people say, oh, why are you burning your fingers with this? No, stay away from it.
I don't think they say it anymore, anyone around me, because when I decide to do something and I know in my heart I'm right, what the intention is correct, I don't shy back. In fact, you cannot make such films if you really don't have the courage. And I don't mean to sound arrogant or anything. That's fine. Not everyone has that kind of whatever it takes to tell such stories. And if you don't, please don't. Because you cannot have any kind of fear or doubt in your head. You need to be very clear for sure what kind of film you're making. As you said, there are multiple aspects to a film. You cannot show in any other subject also. Okay, there was a film called Oppenheimer, right? A very celebrated film, and really good film, and won so many accolades and everything. And you won't believe, someone very senior from the industry had an absolutely different take on the film, to an extent that I said I was just surprised and taken aback. And I just come out of the theater and went to this event that I'd gone for. I said, you know what, sir? For your take, I wish you get to meet Christopher Nolan one day, and you say the same thing to him. And I really.
What did he say?
Now I mean, the film was known for. The film was being applauded and won everything for all the right reasons, right? It was really fantastic film. But he had a very different take. And I said the same thing. I said, sir, you're taking a very different perspective on it. Every film you cannot cater to every angle.
You can't keep everyone happy.
You can't, right? Of course, the Japanese will have their own side of it. You're talking from somebody else's perspective, this film. Let me just give you a very, very subtle idea. So everything can be spun around, can be figured in any other way how you see things. This is our story. This is our take on it. This is our presentation of the film. And with that clarity in mind and intent in heart, we try to tell the story. And once we do, then I don't shy away.
But there are chances you will be accused of timing it to the Bihar elections.
I mean, जो accuse करेंगे वो ही फिर अगली बार बोलेंगे अच्छा फिल्म तो अच्छी थी आपकी, and फिर वो भूल जाएंगे. Because I think हर किसी को कुछ ना कुछ तो कहना है, right? we can't make everyone happy. It's a, as I said, it's a big nation, it's a big country, everyone to each his opinion, and you don't even have to reply to every question. Not every question has an answer.
Just tell me this, what is that one part of the film that made you decide, this is what I want to do? Just give me one instance, episode of that story, which said that this is going to be worth my time.
It's the same thing for each and every film that I do, which is my first instinct when I'm done reading the script. I don't take narrations, I don't listen to a story, I read it thoroughly, and as soon as I'm done reading the script, I literally take 20 seconds approximately, and I know it to in my heart whether I want to be a part of this film or I don't. If I decide yes, I'm all in. If no, then I don't try and convince myself. So there is no hard and fast rule. It's absolutely basis my instinct. I think like an audience. I don't think sometimes, it's a great part, but the script's not really there. I will never do that film. The film has to work first.
Okay. Emraan Hashmi, is there any concern at all that you could be drawn into identity politics thanks to this film?
Like I said, I don't know. Eventually, like she said,
because now there is no grey. Now it's always black or white. Are you with Shah Bano? Are you with those who challenged her? Are you with this narrative? Are you with that? And let's be blunt about it.
Like I said,
there is no place for
we're
nuance
not with
anymore.
one particular narrative. We're just showing you the way it played out. We're not making a statement, or we're not justifying, or we're not judging people in this film, or the people who have lived through this problem. We're just showing you the way it is, and it's up to the audience to decide. So, again, when you make a film like this, yes, there is a risk. There's always a risk, but
has there been anything so far?
No, there's not. I think
in the making of the film where there were concerns?
No, I think right now, even from when we put the trailer up, the comments and just the general feedback is, it looks like a good film. No one has come on board and said, okay, your timing is like this, or are you trying to politicize something? I think the audience they sniff out a good film. And I think right now what people are seeing in this film is that it's an interesting story of these two people. It's an emotional film. They want to go and watch it. They love the music, they love the space, and they're going to enjoy it. See, eventually, when you make a film of this nature, in art, you have to risk a few things. This is a new journey for all of us. This film has never been made, a film of this nature has never been made before. So, you got to risk some things, otherwise it's just empty marketing. If you want to make a good film, yeah, you got to put some things out there, and we'll see on the 7th of November. Hamari niyat saaf hai. We know with the intent with which we made this film. So, we're clean with that.
Okay, the audience is discerning, but very often politics throws a spanner in the works. As in the case of Shah Bano, actually, if there hadn't been politics in the midst of this couple and their life, who knows, the course of history, the course of the story would have been very, very different. For the time being, though, for sparing time, for speaking to us, thank you very much both.